We are back for another edition of the Gold Standard. Joe Danneman and Charlie Goldsmith talking to you either wherever you get your podcast or wherever you follow Fox 19 now and our streaming platforms. I will tell you this, if you're listening to the podcast, you can't see it. If you are streaming, you can see it. Charlie's got his phone right next to him. We're 1 day away from the Major League Baseball trade deadline. Things can happen at any minute. Let's start there with just one umbrella question about the Reds, then we'll jump into Bengals training camp. Where are you standing right now on the Reds and how they're going to approach the trade deadline?
The Reds have a lot of flexibility because of, one, how much flexibility and versatility the roster has, but two, how many guys aren't nailed into any set position, either because they've struggled or because they can do multiple things, or maybe you could scale that role back a bit. Now, while everyone says chase the power, and that would certainly help the Reds, it's a bad power-hitting trade class outside of Suarez. So your decisions are go all in for Suarez, which I'm not as much of a fan of, or try to upgrade your defense, try to kind of take a different route to improve the right-handed balance on the team. There's a strong class of right-handed hitting, mostly outfielders, a third baseman or two as well, who are good defenders, who are the players I'm most locked in on a position player side, and then a pitching hybrid bullpen reliever starter is another area I'm really locked in on.
One follow-up before we transition to the Bengals. You say don't go all in on Eugenio Suarez. Why not?
You'd have to outbid the Cubs, Mets, Astros, Mariners, Tigers, the teams that are all in. And again, Gino's the belle of the ball. The Reds should always be going after the belle of the ball. They should have been in on Juan Soto. They should be in on, whoever the superstar free agent is available on the market at this time next year, but that's not the world the Reds live in. They have said this on the record. They're not going to be trading top prospects because when you look at the window 27 through 29, they might have some added constraints at that point. So you're going to need those prospects then. For better or for worse, it all goes back to payroll, and that's where they're at.
Table the trade deadline talk, table the Reds talk here for just a little bit. Let's transition now to the Bengals. You and I just walked out of the Bengals locker room as we're taping this. This is Wednesday, Trey Hendrickson's first day back here with the Bengals. Trey just spoke at his locker for about 8 minutes. What was your biggest takeaway?
Trey made a point to not blow up at the organization, which to me is even more of a sign of good faith than showing up, and that's how it was framed. I think Trey Hendrickson showed up and the $50,000 fines a day had a big role in that, but Trey had an opportunity to not speak. He had an opportunity to speak his mind, and he said there's been no progress. Yeah. And from a Bengals perspective, could they have been more proactive here? From Hendrickson's perspective, should he just bet on himself? You can understand why there is this gap, but Hendrickson here, and it's probably a sign towards him playing this season.
I asked him if there's been any progress. He said things are exactly the same. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe you asked him what he said in May, that he wouldn't play under this current deal. Do you remember what he said to you in that answer? Yeah,
I asked specifically why not just bet on himself, and and his answer was, it feels like there is some common ground and some. But it's funny because that would seem to be progress, but then there is no progress. So even that goes through a full circle that's kind of hard to wrap your mind around. That was the one point that had me kind of second guessing what Trey was saying, because if he felt optimistic, he wouldn't be saying there's no progress. So I guess we'll see because we don't have a straight answer.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and I think I speak for a lot of fans here, and I wonder if you have the same feeling. It feels like something is going to get done that appeases Trey enough for him to get back on the practice field and be ready for week one. Does it feel like to you eventually the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson will come to an agreement on something that is past this current deal?
How'd the Shamar Stewart deal get done? He got, I believe, like $500K up front earlier. Shamar was able to save face, and he was able to say, all right, I'm still going to do a full camp. I'm still going to get the acclimation time with the boys. I think Hendrickson needs a situation, too, where he's able to save face in this situation. I don't see the Bengals giving him significant, aggressive, over-the-top, multi-year guarantees, because that's not who Trey Hendrickson is at the top of that defensive end market. That's just what it is. So I don't see the Bengals budging too far off that stance. Is there a bone they could throw him that would help Trey save face while not going too far and making that deal with Trey, which would honestly probably have negative long-term ripple effect?
Interesting point, and I think a point well taken by you there. Trey said he wanted to get back in the building to start working with some of the guys, be a resource as a guy who's one of the best in the NFL at what he does. That stuff does matter. He said he didn't want to be a distraction. And I think you and I have been here on this set talking about this defense and the idea that it has to be better this year. We all understand that. I don't think I'm going to be convinced until I see it in a game. I think you're on the same wavelength with me as that. But I think it would be unfair to deny that the energy feels different about the defense so far at training camp. Have you felt that?
You know what I felt, and nobody cares about my high school days, but you've all experienced this. You're a freshman and you're looking up to the sophomores, juniors, and seniors. You're a sophomore, you're looking up to the people older than you. The juniors, you're looking up to the seniors, and they just occupy a space. And then I remember when I was a senior in high school, my biggest epiphany was that there's just no one I'm looking up to anymore.
Yeah.
It's not that you're on this pedestal, but you're not looking around for the people who are. And that's how I feel about these young defensive backs. And kind of the most consistent theme I've heard is making this unit our own. Like Josh Newton, I'm going to speak up now. Jordan Battle, I'm going to speak up. DJ Ivey, Tyson Anderson. And then, of course, some bigger names in the secondary like Dax Hill, Cam Taylor-Britt, and Geno Stone. But as I think Jordan Battle told me, we're all we got. And it's very young. There is a youthful exuberance that shows up in how they play. There's a youthful exuberance that shows up in maybe some missteps they're having so far in camp. But the tone and the energy and just the culture of that defense is significantly different.
I've spoken multiple times to Cam Taylor-Britt and Jordan Battle, both at training camp and going back to mini camp and OTAs as well, of them saying it's okay for rookies and it's okay for second-year players to take ownership of this defense, to have confidence in themselves, to be leaders on this defense. They need that. Those guys have been very aggressive with their not only actions, but with what they're saying on the field. Have you noticed that as well? It feels like they're
1,000%.
talking more, and I think that's a difference maker for a team, especially the defense, trying to build an identity.
So what this is an evolution of Zach Taylor and an evolution of the defensive coordinator position. Because I can tell you with Lou Anarumo, who did a lot of very good things in Cincinnati, the young guys didn't have the opportunity at all to speak up, to be vocal, to be a part of that fabric in that type of way. There were real guardrails and barriers between the veterans and between the young guys. The veterans were at the front of the room. The rookies were waiting their turn. And that barrier, I think, was a part of kind of how the defense fell apart last season. Because when Von Bell, when Mike Hilton, who did some things well, but Mike Hilton in coverage was struggling last season, when Jermaine Pratt was really struggling, when the old guys who have the authority aren't playing well anymore, and your young guys kind of feel like they're still stepping on eggshells even though they're the better players, that's a tough place to be. That's like in the middle of a storm cloud. Like there's just a lot going on there that's unstable. And I think you've taken out that instability because I can tell you this about Al, there aren't those guardrails between the old guys and the young guys, even if this defense had, the 30-year-olds that the Bengals 2024 defense did. That approach is one of the biggest changes.
What a busy day for the media on Wednesday, because not only did Trey Hendrickson speak for the first time since he had his very famous now during the middle of spring practice media session, but Joe Burrow also talked for the second time since the start of training camp. And I don't know if this is Joe Burrow trying to pump confidence into the room, but it feels like he's excited about this team, and it does feel genuine. He spoke of the defense when he said, playing defense isn't always about mindset. He said he can feel the energy because defense is played with energy, it's played with emotion, it's played with physicality. Are you buying that Joe is sensing that the defense actually is taking steps forward, or does it feel like to you, the leader of the team, the quarterback, trying to pump some confidence into the group?
Well, we still don't know if Cam Taylor-Britt's technique can be consistent. We still don't know what Josh Newton is in the slot, how DJ Turner looks in coverage, how Dax Hill is looking coming off the torn ACL, how Geno Stone is able to be a starting safety in the NFL, how Jordan Battle looks over a full season, if this team has any interior pass rush. We could go on, but I think kind of the vacuum almost of the instability that I was talking about from last season, like you can turn on the film, and I think it was Geno Stone actually said this, turn on the film last season and you'll see a lot of guys angrily pointing at each other before the play happens. And that's not good.
Yeah.
To not have that, it's almost like the Reds. The 2024 Reds had 4 significant players who had negative wars. Fairchild played a lot. Benson was one of the worst players in baseball. Lovie Marte, just production-wise, played like one of the worst players in baseball. When you replace the negative with zero, that does a lot. So I'm just talking from a pure culture standpoint. And then if, those guys can cover and they can take strides in those new rules, that's how this defense then becomes average to good. But the shifting nature from a leadership perspective is positive for everybody.
Is your phone okay?
All good.
Okay. We're going to keep popping in on that. This is real-time stuff. Trade deadlines in a little more than 24 hours across Major League Baseball. I have two more Bengals questions before we jump quickly to the Reds. The offense, and I feel like we shortchange the offense sometimes talking about training camp because there are so many, and I don't want to say finished products, but there doesn't seem like there's as much room for growth with the Jamar Chases and the Joe Burrows like they have on defense. Has anyone caught your eye on offense through a week of training camp practice?
You know what? Taj Brooks is cutting hard. He's aggressive. And
what's his role?
That's the thing. But I'm just saying he's caught my eye. What's his role? He's probably going to be running back 3. But hey, when Zach Moss got hurt last season, the Bengals, Zach Taylor, clearly as a play caller, had zero confidence in anyone else carrying the football, which is an important thing to have. And it was so much so that they made a panic trade for Khalil Herbert. All right, sure, he's not going to have a huge role, but you have that depth. Jermaine Burton continues to check every box. I spoke to him today about how excited he is about his route tree growing. He's not just running straight anymore, and he feels like some work's paying off there. Still a little worried about the guards. Jalen Rivers, their backup swing tackle, could he play guard? I'm intrigued to see how he looks in the preseason. And then Yoshivas continues to make big plays as well.
Boy, he looked great today. Speaking on Wednesday, some back shoulder throws, some seam routes. Joe talked about the fact that he came from a track background, didn't play at high-level football like in one of the Power 4 conferences, and therefore wasn't a great contested catch guy. He's developed that part of his game. And we all see Andre Yoshivas make those chemistry plays with Burrow when things break down, like in New York or the 4th down touchdown against Kansas City. But to see some timing now from Burrow and Yoshivas, it can be a matchup problem for teams considering his size and considering what they have to do with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Let me ask you about Shamar Stewart. You've had a chance to watch him a couple of days now. What are your first impressions of him on the field? His first practice was bad. I think it's okay to say that from a physical conditioning perspective, from a literally knowing where the defensive linemen stand, from a having to repeat a lot of drills with aggressive points from the coaches. I think they also kind of maybe wanted to make that not a bad practice, but an aggressive practice for Shamar Stewart. He progressed in day 2, showed kind of the speed and the length and the range. But then today, and I'm not going to overreact to anyone's training camp practices, but he asked the question. Today, I thought rushing the passer, getting his most extensive reps in full speed team drills, he was a little tall. And he kind of got stuck or sucked out of the play, or he wasn't kind of getting downhill in the way that he can. So this is a process. I'm going to be patient. I'm giving Joseph Osai a big runway now to be this team's starting defensive end. I feel good about him week 1. I think it's okay for Stewart to get maybe some more time to work out the edges. Now the Reds, thermometer check here for the Reds. We do this every week. We ask Charlie what he thinks the ceiling for the Reds is as far as wins. And it's been an interesting start after the All-Star break because it's been up and down so far. If my math is correct, after the Reds losing 2 straight to the Dodgers, they played 11 games and they're 6-5. And that's not the kind of push this team wanted coming out of the All-Star break. But they've had moments, right? New York, I thought they played really well, had a great series, certainly sweeping the race. So I've seen their upside. But what is the reality of the ceiling for this team, considering they're right there behind the Padres for the final wildcard spot? What you've seen after the All-Star break is something I was saying before the All-Star break come to fruition. When they kind of had that weird, or just not productive stretch against like the Red Sox, the Phillies, the Rockies, took a game off them, the Marlins split a series. I said, this is all fine, but what they need is the strength of their team to win them games. That's what strengths of the team have to do. The starters were solid, but the starting pitching had to go out and lead the Reds to wins. When they've been winning recently, that's exactly what's been happening. You've seen some fantastic starts by just about everyone in this rotation. Now, the thing about the Dodgers series is they've gotten that. It still hasn't been enough. Chase Burns, what a day on Monday. Nick Lodolo on Tuesday. Those starts in a lot of ways were undone by defense. So you are seeing starting pitching can take them so far, but defense has to pick up the baton. And like I was saying earlier, that's why I wonder how aggressive the Reds could be at the deadline, prioritizing defense. We talked about that. We were watching Bengals training camp. I was going to ask you about that if you were comfortable talking about that. You think that's a priority for the Bengals or for the Reds? You've also said, and for the Bengals, you're right. It's a good point. So prioritizing defense, and we saw it in Game 2 against the Dodgers, how much it let them down, especially with Gavin Lux in left field. A lot of people are pointing to that as a big difference maker in the game, and certainly it was. So improving defense, and you've said someone like a Nick Martinez, who's a starter, hybrid reliever guy kind of thing. Do you have some names? You threw some names out last week just to prime the audience again of some names that might fit what you're looking for defense and from maybe that pitching standpoint as well.
Yeah, so I'll give another Reds comparison for the hitting side, like an upgraded, more punch Santiago Espinal. So someone who's known for his defense, but can just do some more damage from a power perspective. Maybe it's a true outfielder. I don't know, the buyers and sellers are so muddy right now because of how tightly compressed the wild card race is in both leagues. But Adolis Garcia from the Rangers is a name that I think would be an excellent fit. A team that's a clear seller, Ramon Laureano from the Orioles, would be a guy who would, again, provide that type of value for the Reds. Super utility man for the Twins, Willie Castro, has a lot of those qualities as well. Do the Reds have the financial flexibility to get a Luis Robert? I don't know, but his name belongs on that list in terms of what he can do. A couple other names there I'm forgetting, but then the hybrid Nick Martinez types, that would include Reed Detmers from the Angels, that would include Zach Littell from the Rays, that would include Steven Matz from the Cardinals, who could give them a different look as a left-handed pitcher, and that would include Matz, Littell, Detmers. There's another player in there that I'm forgetting, Michael Soroka from the Nationals. Because the Reds' starting pitching depth could be what kills them this season. So if you can bolster that while still giving you a potential sixth inning guy for the stretch run, I like that.
You've talked many times. Your phone okay?
Just Dad.
Maybe Dad's got some news.
Yeah.
Dad knows what's going on. He's got some sources. If you listen to the Gold Standard on a weekly basis, you've heard Charlie mention several times that payroll is going to be a major decision maker when it comes to the Reds making decisions about taking on new players or trading for new players. Last question about the trade deadline would be, look, this fan base is starving for this team to do something. Give this group something. The group itself has very publicly said, we're in this thing, give us some help. Do you think that at all affects the decision making from the front office for the Reds, the fact that the fan base looks back to 2 years ago when they didn't do much and hears it also from the players saying, please give us help, and says, we've got to do something?
The front office wants to do something.
Okay.
There are limitations that come from payroll flexibility. How badly does ownership want to push the boundaries that, all right, let's spend $10 more million to upgrade this team versus $20 million versus $30 million? You reach that point somewhere, whether it's $2 million, whether it's $50 million, who knows? The last name Castellini knows. It's somewhere in that window. If you don't have any of that, that forces you to get very uncomfortable because the guys who are cheap and are good are going to be the guys who are the most valuable. Like Eugenio Suarez, who doesn't have a ton of money, but again is going to be very valuable for that reason. So frankly, that's just a part of it. How aggressive is ownership going to be is one of the defining questions. And then the front office is also acting off that, because if they don't have a ton of flexibility, well, then you do need these prospects. You're even more likely to hold on to prospects. They've had a lot of budget meetings this year. These are the kind of things that get discussed.
Final two segments of the Gold Standard are the Gold Rush and the Gold Nugget. The Gold Rush is going to be fun today. I'm going to do this the next few weeks here as we get closer to the preseason. Just Dad again?
Just it was the same text.
Same text from Dad. It just pops up. His phone is, okay, poor Dad got deleted. For the Gold Rush, I'm going to give Charlie, I'm going to scroll through my phone and land on a random Bengal. It could be Jamar Chase. It could be player number 90 on the roster. And I want you to give me one fun fact about that player or a nugget, okay?
I'm excited.
You think you can do it for every player on this roster?
I know by the end of camp I'll be able to, but you know what? I'm going to take a page out of Josh Newton's playbook and express a lot of confidence here and talk my game.
Fantastic. Okay, here we go. I am scrolling through and landing on, oh boy, Quali Conley, number 40, a halfback, Quali Conley.
I did see him in there today. I saw him in there today. They were doing offensive line versus defensive line drills where the defensive linemen were actually going full speed rushing against the offensive linemen for the first time with no quarterback. So now they can really go, and they were practicing against the run. And poor Conley was the running back they had back there, practicing being the guy who got tackled. Now, he did not actually get tackled, but he was practicing being the guy who got tackled.
But you had eyeballs on number 40. He was on the field.
He was.
I couldn't have landed on a more random player, and
right.
we nailed it.
He is number 90.
Okay, he is number 90 on the roster. Next one, Matt Lee. Bengals 7th-round pick, last year?
Yep.
Center out of Miami, Matt Lee.
Matt Lee's now in a really interesting competition with Seth McLaughlin to be, now Lucas Patrick is going to be the backup center, but to be the second center on the roster, if you want to list Patrick as a guard. Matt Lee not bulked up, but kind of got bigger during this offseason. The idea is that might give him some more guard flexibility. A reason he fell to the 7th was because he seemed to be just pigeonholed as a center. And if you're a backup, you need to be able to play multiple spots. Pass protection quickness is his strength. My favorite moment. Do you remember that one game from Miami where they were giving the running back one more carry to get 1,000 yards, and he fumbled? So everyone quit on that play, letting the linebacker to come free, except for Matt Lee, who's holding the wall of the wall of Atlas, trying to hold 4 guys off, saying, eventually he couldn't hold up because you can't block 4 guys. But Matt Lee sure tried his best.
You got another text? You good?
Nothing.
Okay, nothing. Here's my fun fact on Matt Lee. He cut his mullet.
Yeah.
The mullet's gone.
Yeah.
It's like Samson.
You didn't expect 2 minutes on Matt Lee, did you, listen?
It's a wonderful 2 minutes. Okay, here's a new guy. Oren Burks, linebacker, free agent brought in from Philadelphia to the Bengals. What's your fun fact on Oren Burks?
He's kind of known for his peanut punch, which is like when you punch the ball
Peanut
out
Tillman.
like that.
Yeah.
Is that the origins weren't clear to me, so there you go. Those are the origins. Bear Carter in the low red today. Logan Wilson got a day off. Bear Carter was in there. He showed some range. He showed some vertical leap. He seems to be kind of the leader in the clubhouse there for that role. Even maybe LB3 for a team that will be playing more 3 linebackers. So Burks, it's got to be special teams. It's got to be veteran presence. Lost the 49ers the Super Bowl 2 years ago. But
ouch. That's not a fun fact.
Sorry.
That's a sad fact. Okay, 2 more. Next one, Kendrick Pryor, wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. He is listed at 5'11", 189. What do you think he actually is?
Well, I was going to say Kendrick Pryor's biggest strength is his contested catchability in the corners.
How about that for his size?
Which is stunning for his size. Yeah. But I'm telling you, those are the skills they prioritize the most, that kind of vertical back shoulder route tree. And that is what he does best. Now, when you don't want to do this is on the road at Baltimore after Joe Burrow shatters his wrist, and you're desperately trying to get back in the game, and Jake Browning's lofting a deep ball to Kendrick Pryor down the sideline against the best defense in football. That did not work.
Last one here on the Gold Rush of our roulette of random Bengals, and they're not even random. They're just me randomly picking them. Okay, here we go. Last one. I'm stuck on the height and weights. Let me get back to the players. I can't do that to you, so I'm going to do this. Ryan Rico, the Bengals punter. Dude, he was on today. He was hitting bombs. He always had a slow start to training camp. I watched the punter. It's kind of a crazy thing. He had a great day today. What's your fun fact on Ryan Rico?
My fun fact on Ryan Rico is the unbelievably beautiful tied history between punting the Bengals and the Chiefs. So like the Bengals, where they're going to get Matt Araiza in the draft. No, they didn't. The punt god, you know him as. The Chiefs then the Bengals lose the AFC Championship game because one of the reasons was because of a bad punt. A couple of years later, or actually, the Bengals traded back, got Jordan Battle, and used the extra pick in a deal with the Chiefs to get Brad Robbins, because Brad Robbins was supposed to be their punter. Ryan Rico signs last year as an undrafted free agent with the Chiefs. The Chiefs then get the punt god, cut Rico. Rico ends up with the Bengals where he beats out Brad Robbins. Beautifully intertwined punting histories between the Bengals and Chiefs.
This has instantly become my favorite Gold Rush. By the way, the guy I skipped on said I couldn't do it to you was Andrew Rame. Center.
I got something.
You got a nugget? Sure, why not? Go Andrew Rame real quick.
So Rame was the center they got because Lee was hurt, because Patrick was hurt, and they needed someone who could snap. And poor guy, Scott Peters was not happy with the technique that Rame was doing in practice the other day. He just got here. Give the kid a break.
Center, 6'4", 305 pounds, out of Oklahoma, Mr. Andrew Rame. Okay, we'll finish up with the Gold Nugget. This is where we dive into Charlie's notebook and find something he's working on or a fun interview he's done. He got some nuggets from the players. What do you got for the Gold Nugget?
I have a story up on Fox 19. I alluded to a part of this earlier, is how the approach with rookies has changed. And last year they made a bet they're going to start counting on rookies more. But then as one of them, as Muma Jongmeta, he was the one who opened up and told me, he said, we're kind of a bad rookie class. We were late. We weren't as serious as we needed to be. Zach Taylor called the entire rookie class into his office at the end of the first month of last season, and he said, start acting like contributors now because your time is coming. And there was some improvement, but there was still room to grow. But that's kind of another message that's being reinforced to this year's rookie class, because Mims, Jenkins, Newton, even Burton, Eric All, like we saw them a lot, David John Anthony, we saw them a lot last year. This year's going to be similar, and these rookies need to be ready for it.
Did we make it through the entire podcast without you missing anything big from the Reds?
Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished. Another edition of the Gold Standard in the books. Make sure you follow us every week. We typically do this on Thursday. I had to do it on Wednesday this week because I'm leaving for the Bristol Motor Speedway, the Speedway Classic of the Reds and the Braves. All the coverage this weekend here on Fox 19 Now. For Charlie Goldsmith, I'm Joe Danaman. We'll see you next time on the Gold Standard.